Hey, Necroxix here. So today I just felt like doing some antivirus testing. And I picked out some of the common, more popular antiviruses. And the idea here is take a virtual machine, like just a fresh Windows 10 installation, clean, updated, download 500 samples of the malware, and recent ones at that. And then just start hitting it with the different antiviruses and seeing how much of it they clean. Now, there's different ways of approaching this, and I'm just looking straight up if I downloaded malware like an exe file, but I didn't run it yet. How do these all compare? It'll be different than if you already have an existing system that's infected, and real-time protection as well as other features will change everything. So the scope of this is strictly you downloaded 500 exe files and now you want to scan them and see if they're clean or not. Basically, we have the name of the antivirus here. Right now, all the virus samples are just set to 500. And then I have a little mathematical formula that'll calculate the percentage that's been cleaned. So let's say Avast cleaned or had a remaining file count of, 50. Then we'll have a value of 90%. Simple enough, right? So the first order of business is going to be creating a virtual machine. I'm going to do it on my server. That way it's going to be independent of my desktops and I don't have to worry about rebooting and stuff because this testing will take a little while and we'll be skipping around as necessary. So I'm going to deploy a new virtual machine. We're going to call it Virosis. It'll be on my main server. This one has the RAID 10 array. My other server is using a lot of CPU resources because I'm encoding a bunch of videos. That's my data store. We're going to say Windows 10 and we'll give it 3 cores and 8 gigs of memory. And the recommended minimum is 32. I'm going to say 40. And the key here for me is, even though we're not going to be running the malware, maybe I'll see what happens just for the shits and giggles later. I have VLAN 40, which is my isolated guest network. So when this machine is up, it has internet access through VLAN 40, but it cannot communicate to any of my desktops, my servers, or anything. It completely isolated. So if there was, let's say, a worm infection, it doesn't see the rest of the network. It can only communicate to the internet. And then I need to go and find a Windows ISO. Fast forwarded, now we have a fresh, clean install of Windows 10. I open up, PowerShell in this case. So you can see this is 1809. And I let it run for a little bit so it can finish all its installation setup stuff. I installed Opera and I installed WinRare. If I do an IP config, you can see it's pulling an IP address from my VLAN 40 subnet. So this thing cannot see any other device on my network. Next step is going to be take Opera and we're going to go to, I think it's dasmalwork.eu. This is just what I'm going to use for my tests. So this is, and disclaimer, I do not recommend doing this. Doing this puts you at risk of infecting your system because these are actual malware samples. And the way it works, and the reason I downloaded Opera for this is that when I shift click on download, or maybe it was control click, I don't remember, it just automatically saves it, and it's going to save it to my downloads folder on this particular machine. And that's it right there. And I'm going to delete the WinRare installation. It's done. And this is the file right here, and if I open it, you'll see that we get WinRare's trial thing popping up. And this is the actual malware sample without an extension at the end, and it's password protected, so that you don't download it and just accidentally run it. And the password is just infected, so I'll extract all of them afterwards, and I'm going to literally go one by one by one. I'm just going to control click until I have 500 samples. So I'm going to fast forward now. And I'd also like to mention that this is a collection of different things. So Trojans to, there should be ransomware, adware, potentially unwanted programs. It's just like all sorts of different stuff. And by downloading like the first 500, I'm under the impression that I'm downloading like the 500 most recent samples that this particular database has. And that'll be the samples I use for my testing. Oh, and while I was clicking through these, it also reminded me that the other reason that they most likely passworded the files themselves is so that any intrusion detection or intrusion protection system and or any active protection on your system, such as an antivirus, won't automatically block it. Since it doesn't know the password to an archive file, it will simply let you download it. So we now have 500 items. Each one of them should be unique. As far as I know, I didn't accidentally download the same one twice. I'm going to select all of them. I'm going to go ahead and extract them to, we'll call it, we'll give it a folder. Downloads/samples, and hit OK. Now it's going to need a password for every single one of these, but I'm using infected, as you can see. I'm going to hit OK. Let those extract into that folder. I'll delete these. Then we'll have 500 samples extracted. I will probably also do one more thing just to show, but it is dangerous to deal with, and that's actually giving them extensions. I don't recommend it. Samples, so right now we just have a whole bunch of these randomly named files. I'm going to open up a command prompt, cmd, and navigate to that folder. So you can see it's the same files. ren star dot and then star.exe. What that did is it renamed, and we can't see them right now in Windows if you don't see an extension for files. View, options, and it's running like ass. Then I click on the View tab, and then in here we have hide extensions for known file types. Turn that off. Oftentimes you might want to show hidden files as well. It doesn't matter in our case, but you can see now we have an exe on .exe extension on every single file, and now there's icons and stuff. These are real programs taken from hell knows where, and some of these may not function as an actual valid Windows application. So what that should tell us right off the bat is that out of the 500 samples, none of these, even all of them combined, will actually remove all 500 samples. So in other words, 100% will never happen. And I know this only because I've done different tests where I would actually run these samples and just annihilate the hell out of the machine. A lot of them will not be valid applications. Maybe it's malware for Android, or maybe it's for Mac and Linux and stuff like that. I don't know. I don't know the details behind this site. For comparison purposes, we will still get some decent results, but you can see these got different icons and everything, and it'll be a good sample to, test some of these antiviruses. Antiviri. And the idea is I'm going to run the antivirus on that folder, and then whatever it doesn't remove, that'll be the number we toss into our spreadsheet, and we're good to go. Now, there's a couple different benefits of running in a virtual machine for this type of test in this case. One of which is what I'm going to show you right now. So in my vCenter, to manage all this, there's the virtual machine we're running. I'm going to right-click it and do a snapshot. Take a snapshot. And in this case, I'm going to not snapshot the virtual machine memory. It'll make a smaller snapshot. If you snapshot with the virtual machine memory, it basically acts kind of like the sleep or hibernate function in Windows, where it saves everything as is and then shuts down and then loads it back up from memory, either from RAM or from the hard drive, depending on whether it's a sleep or hibernate. Snapshots themselves can be thought of as like Windows Restore, or if you image backup, it won't take very long since we're not doing the memory. What that means is that I can then right-click. I can do it through VM Workstation as well. I can then revert to the snapshot. So now I can install a program, I can change things, delete things, run things, whatever the hell I want. And as soon as I revert it and boot it back up, we're going to have this. And I would like to reiterate, please, if you don't know what you're doing, even if you think for a moment you don't know what you're doing, don't do this. This is live malware, adware, Trojans, various crypto mining shit, and so on. This stuff will mess your computer up if you run it. And I basically made it so all I have to do is double click them and I could run them, even though I don't intend to. Some of these samples are also worms, which means if your computer that it's running on is connected to any local network with other machines, it'll also try to scan the rest of the network to see if whatever vulnerability that it needs is available. In other words, it can actually propagate from one computer to another computer on your local network, and that's dangerous. So I've taken a lot of precautions, even though I'm not planning on running these. So my computer is isolated on the network. And you may be asking, why did I pick these particular antivirus software solutions? So I went with the first thing, which is Avast, and I downloaded the free version. So I think I'll try the free versions where I can. I may do something different with Bitdefender, because Bitdefender is, last time I tested it, it was an absolute flop fail. It was worse than Windows Defender. I don't know what the hell happened. So let's go ahead and install Avast free. This will be the first test that we perform. And I'll run through each individual installer. Another benefit, by the way, of running in a virtual machine is I can actually clone this virtual machine to additional hardware. Like I could run another copy of this now on a second server. I could run that on my desktop, hypervisor, etc. And I could actually run like 2, 3, or more tests all at the same time on the same samples. But I'm just going to do one at a time. It's probably going to take me all night to do this, but whatever. Do I want to also install Google Chrome? Hell no. Who the fuck wants Google Chrome? Oh, regular people maybe. Recommended minimum. I'm just going to go with the defaults. And another thing worth re-stressing is I'm simply testing how the scanner reacts and cleans out the samples that are downloaded. And it is installing. You just can't see it because my stupid face is in the way. Another thought is, why am I picking the free version instead of the non-free version? Well, I don't know. You are protected. Great. Please don't skip this. Too late. No, I don't want to protect my phone. Maybe never. Now, the first thing I'm going to want to do is make sure it is fully updated and not running like an initial setup scan. You guys can't see it, I apologize. I'm just right-clicking and hitting update, engine and virus definitions. This is now up to date. I'm going to go ahead and close that crap. I'll just keep this open on the side here. I'm going to go ahead and right-click the samples, scan selected items, and we'll be back when this is done. And we are done with the first one. I don't know if they're all set to delete or not. There's just too many samples to work with. But I'm just going to hit resolve. And the reason you may be seeing numbers higher than even the number of samples would be due to samples having multiple threats within them. So like it might be malware and it might have an extra adware component bundled in or something like that. So it claims to have resolved 501 issues, but that doesn't mean 501 samples are gone necessarily. We are left with 51 items in the end. So I can take this 51, go into our little thing, and enter our first result. So that gives us a cleaning percent rate at 89.8. Now there's also another thing to keep in mind too, is part of the reason why I said none of these are going to be able to achieve 100% no matter what, is some of these maybe have archives within them that are password protected, similar to the way the sample was protected. The installer itself will open them during like an installation or during runtime and be able to remove them. So like if you double click an exe, it may then open that password protected archive inside it with its own preset password, and only then is it visible. That's where real-time protection comes into play. So some of these are probably just undetectable because there's password protection and stuff that doesn't trigger. But we have our first baseline. And now I'm going to show you guys how to revert a snapshot. So I'm going to hit revert snapshot to the one we took earlier. I'm going to hit yes. And because we didn't do a memory save and everything on the snapshot, it just shut it down. But now when I power it up, my login screen, welcome to Virosis. I'm going to open my Explorer and go straight to our downloads folder. And as you can see, Avast that we previously downloaded is no longer present. And we have all 500 samples. So it's going to be a repeat of this process. So let me download the next one and we'll be right back. Next up we have AVG. Looks to be very similar in file size for the offline installer. This is the free version. And I remember using this over 10 years ago, maybe, probably more than that, and getting hit with a rootkit. And then I switched to a different antivirus. So I had a bad experience once upon a time because the free version didn't include protection against rootkits, and browsing the wrong website was all it took to destroy you. This also wants to install Google Chrome. I don't know why it's claiming to be faster access and easier searches and stable and secure when Opera is better for me in every which way. The installer looks awfully the same as Avast. I wonder if maybe it's the same company now. Maybe they merged or something. I don't know. I don't use the free solutions personally. But the installer looked basically the same. The progress bar is the same. I know you guys can't see it. You're protected. Continue. No, I don't want to protect my phone. This is exactly the same as Avast so far. No, not now, not ever. Virus definition is 6 hours ago. Let's hit refresh on that. And it also has settings that you do the it must be the same program. We'll know if it has the same scan results, essentially, because this looks almost identical to Avast right now that we just tested. The check for update is done. I'll move that up there somewhere. Right click. At the moment, I'm convinced this was probably the same program. Scan selected item for viruses. Looks like this one has a different feature for shredding. Whoop-de-doo. We'll be back when this is done scanning. Upon the scan finishing, it took me straight to this. Oh, here we go. It's doing something in the background still. Okay, so this is different than the results we got from Avast. Select all viruses, and just delete is fine. No nasty files here. Your quarantine is complete. How many samples do we have? 49. It's actually got 2 more than the other. Interesting. So I'll punch in 49 there. I thought they would be like the same thing. Even the version numbers look really similar. Don't ask me where I got these version numbers from, but no, it looked like AVG actually found 2 more of the samples than AVAS did in my particular sample size, in my particular sample set. So let's go ahead and revert the snapshot, and when I'm ready to install Avira, I will be back. We now have Avira downloaded. So we're going to go ahead and install that, and right off the bat I can see it's less than half the size of AVAST and AVG for the installer, but does that really mean anything? Not really. Not realistically speaking. And I expect this to be a bit different. Avira was always different from those other 2 in particular. I had one client that we did install Avira a couple years ago. He needed a free solution, and it was the best choice for his situation. Preparing installation. Do I want to improve my protection using the cloud? Sure. And we'll just do the Express. I don't need to customize where it installs and all this other stuff. Now here I have an option of using free or pro if I had a pro. And we're just going with the free. Next. It's trying to open a web browser. I'm going to not let it because screw you. See here for more information. I don't give a fuck. And I need to update it. Can I just right click? Yes, there's an update. Yeah, you guys can't see it. I apologize. It's clicking, right clicking on the tray icon and hitting update. And I'm assuming it's doing that. I don't see anything that indicates that happening, but I am going to assume it's updated. I'm just going to hit it again just to be sure. Those previous 2 were really slow in updating. This one seems to be pretty fast. Maybe it downloads the updates when it's installing, which makes sense. So again, our sample size is 500 items. I'm going to right click that folder, scan selected files with, so just by opening that folder, it started quarantining items, and I didn't want that to happen yet. So I'm going to right click samples and scan selected files with Avira and let it do its thing. And we'll be back when it's done. Now here's the screen after it did whatever it did. I'm assuming all of these are going to be listed as cleanup. It detected in total 419 with 4 warnings. I'll let it do its deletion stuff or whatever it's doing, and we'll be back after that. And our samples in the end are 78, but I had another thought that I didn't think about, and that is we selected the clean option, not the delete. So it's possible that some of the detections have been cleaned and otherwise intact for the remaining of the file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat the entire process, get to that final screen, and then see if I can select delete. Well, I redid the whole test and there is no option to delete. So I am left to assume this means cleanup equals delete. I have a suspicion that it could very well be that if a file can be cleaned, the malware can be pulled out of the exe, leaving the remainder intact. But I just don't have the means to evaluate it, so I think I'm going to skip Bitdefender for now until later. I'll do it at the end due to issues with it. Next up, we have the Dr.Web Cure It. I already downloaded it right here. Let's see how you perform. All statistics collected during scanning will be sent. I guess I don't have a choice. Select objects for scanning. We're only scanning that one folder. I don't need to scan anything else, so give me a custom folder. Users, viruses, downloads, and samples. Okay. That's the only one I want to scan. I'm going to let this scan, and we'll be back after that. Alright, the scanning is complete. Threats detected, 475. I don't have a default option to change everything. Otherwise, I would select to move everything or delete them. So we're just going to neutralize. Holy hell, that took forever. We have 475 detected threats, all neutralized. I'm just going to look at the log and take a look at what it did with these. So for each exe, it either quarantined it. I want to see if it like cured, reboot required. So this is what I was talking about with what I was saying earlier. In some cases, it may be that the number of remaining files may have been cleaned with some of these AVs as opposed to quarantined or deleted, and that may skew the values, but it looks like it was just one file, and since I had no control over it, it just did its own thing. I'm just going to stick to my guns and keep this measurement as is. And the remaining number of items are 55. So I'm going to add that into my little spreadsheet here. We are going to do MCSoft next. You may be asking me, why did I decide to download the MCSoft emergency kit instead of the full antivirus? Well, in tests I've done in the past, it seemed to be the exact same scanning engine and definitions, and this doesn't require any installation, so I'm just going to use this instead. So any extra saving of time and effort is a-okay. So this isn't installing it, it's actually extracting it into my C drives, a subfolder in there. This would normally be used where somebody, for example, might give me their computer and say, this thing's a mess, can you clean it up? That's where a tool like this would come into play so that you're not installing extra antiviruses. You would be able to just run the emergency kit instead, which is basically just the scanner as I understand it. So now we're going to load the software itself and go from there. I accept your whatever. Do you want to update now? Yes, I do. I believe the update is done, but it is loading. Now that the little loading icon's gone on my mouse, I'm going to click Custom Scan. Do you also want to detect potentially unwanted programs? Yes. We're going to remove the C drive and actually not a file. I'm going to add folder, and it is the samples folder. Everything by default is on from the looks of it. Rootkits, malware, blah, 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 blah. Next. I'll let this do its thing, and I'll see you after. The scan appears to be done. Did your current virus, blah, 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 install? Hell no. Close. I see it's detected 434. I'm going to tell it to delete selected. Quarantine would be the same thing, essentially. So it's just getting rid of that stuff instead of attempting to clean any of it in any way. That was very fast, actually. Unlike that Dr. Curate, whatever. Close, and what are the results? Ooh, 68. So it left quite a bit behind, actually. Next up on the chopping block is going to be ESET. And here we have ESET antivirus. I went with the antivirus instead of the Internet Suite or whatever the heck it's called. This is actually the same antivirus I use. I've been using it for a long time and I love it. But this isn't about what I love right now. This is about just getting it installed. And this one is not free. There is no free version. There's a free trial. But otherwise, this is a paid program regardless of which version you use. So let's do the free trial. I have to give them an email address. Put in an email of some form. And we should have a trial. So I'm going to go ahead and enable all the recommended crap, the live grid, and potentially unwanted apps. Yeah, sure, let's participate in your customer experience improvement program. I'm doing my part. Are you? Me neither. Now, the first thing I know it's going to do is it's going to try and update, and then it's going to run an initial scan. So I'm going to disable or cancel the scan when it happens so that I can run just a scan on that folder and not the entire operating system and everything else, which is fine. There it is trying to do an initial scan. We're going to cancel that and dismiss it. I don't need any of that. Our sample folder is at 500 items. So right click and let us go ahead and scan with ESET. And now it's going to do its little thing. Going to be bitching about me. It looks like it already removed some threats while I was browsing that folder. Oops. It says they've all been deleted. That's fine by me. So when this is done, I will be back. Our ESET scan is now complete. And I can see things like this where it shows no action for some reason. I believe ESET, if it can't clean it, it may default to no action as opposed to delete. Not quite sure why, but I have an actual option for all listed files. I'm just going to tell it to delete them. No need to clean, just delete. Our scan is now complete and nullified. Detections occurred 499, cleaned all. I don't think that means all 499 files. We have 44 left over. So I'm going to pop 44 into here, which is our best result yet. The next up is going to be Kaspersky. And I think instead of the disposal kit, we'll just install Kaspersky free. Now, I downloaded the free Kaspersky installer, and I believe it is an online installer, so it may take a little longer to install as it probably downloads whatever it needs during the installation process. Welcome to Kaspersky Free. Continue. I confirm I read it. I did not. I confirm I fully read. I did not. Sure. I won't be able to install it if I don't click accept, but hey. Recommended. Accept recommended settings for comfortable startup. Delete malicious tools, adware, auto dialers. Detect other software that can be used by criminals. Yeah, go ahead. Here we have the main window open. Can I just say I don't have an account yet? Are you really going to make me have to? No, I guess it does not. Cool. Database update, run update. And since these are active protection as well, I think I'll avoid double clicking into this samples folder so that the real-time scanning doesn't start removing stuff. Just let the scan itself do it, just in case. The update is now complete. Let us begin the scan. It looks like it slowed down this machine a good bit, but whatever. Scan for viruses. I don't know if the scan is done or not, but it gave me this little pop-up here, detected, not a virus, blah, 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 remote admin. Yeah, we're gonna just delete them all. So it actually completed the first part of the scan, automatically started this rootkit scan. I can see one object disinfected, which is kind of what we don't want. That means the file is probably still there, but it's been cleaned, and that's going to skew the results, because I would rather it be deleted than disinfected, unless that means something slightly different. I don't know. It says 20 objects not processed, and here we see, we recommend you close all running programs and save your changes. And there's an option to try and disinfect without a computer restart. Since we're not actually running and having any of this installed in our system to begin with, we should be able to disinfect it without anything having to be rebooted. Your confirmation is required. Well, I already clicked it once. No? Continue. All right, that took a while. So it actually ran a second rootkit scan after it ran the scan of the folder. I don't know enough about the details, but I'm going to assume it did what it's going to do. And we are now left with a whopping 90 items. I'm going to add that in here. And next we shall move on to malware bytes. And now we have malware bytes. And I have good expectations of this. It's another tool I use in my arsenal regularly for scanning, but not for real-time protection. Although it currently does, at least the premium version, it includes like real-time protection stuff that I have turned off. I'm just going to agree and install whatever the hell it wants. We're not really interested in any of that. Installation is complete. Finish. Don't know if it's going to auto start or not. I mean, it's in the tray. Your 14-day premium trial starts. Whatever. I don't really care. I think it auto updates before it does a scan, but I'm going to hit update anyways. Now that that is done, let us go ahead and right-click our samples, scan with malware bytes, and we'll be back after this is done. Our scan is now complete. I am going to hit quarantine selected, and it identified 461 threats. I don't know if that's 461 files, since there can be multiple threats in any one of those files. And let's see how many samples we have left. We have 39. So I still have Bitdefender and Viper to try out. It's been a long day, so I'll probably do that tomorrow. It is now a new day. I couldn't finish everything yesterday. I'm going to give this Viper a try now. See what the installer looks like. I don't even know why I added this to my list, to be honest. I don't have a key. If you have a product key, would you like to continue without a product key? Yeah. Hopefully that just triggers a trial period or something. I can see the installer has a auto get latest definitions, and then it's going to try and perform a first scan. I'm going to see when it does that, if I can cancel it, just so I can run the manual one on our sample size, sample folder instead. Otherwise, it'll take longer to perform the scan, since it'll be scanning the entire system, which is unnecessary for our test. I also don't know what version this is. Software version 11.0.4.2. I think the stuff in here is out of date. Yes. Okay, now it's running a scan. I'm going to cancel that. Update ThreatNet with new information. Sure. Now we'll take a look at our sample folder, make sure it's at 500. It is. Right click. I'm going to scan with Viper and we'll see what happens when it's done. Alright, our scan is now complete. I see 436 out of 501 items scanned. And we have 66 items left in total. I'm going to punch that in. Finally, we'll do Bitdefender and see where that goes. So I'm looking on Bitdefender's webpage and trying to decide if I should grab the trial download or the free desktop app. And since I did like the free version for Kaspersky and the others that I could, I'm going to go ahead and try and grab the free version. So here's our installer. Let's go ahead and run it and see what's up. Now, one of the things I don't like is I'm pretty sure it's going to require an email to actually set up. It's downloading 384 megs. All right, by clicking install, you agree with the subscription agreement. I don't have a choice. Installing is complete, but it is still doing something. Bitdefender antivirus free has been installed. Do I want to sign in? Not now. So maybe I can avoid it. Maybe not. Let me see if I can close that and if that'll just let me run it. Nope. I think we have no choice but to sign in. Alright, so let's go ahead and do this then. I'm gonna type in temp email, grab this first link. My email address is that. My full name is going to be that. There. I agree to your terms, even though I don't. Your password must include. Alright. Upper and lower. Oh, for fuck's sake. There. That'll shut them up. I still have to sign in to the damn thing. It says update finished successfully. May 4th. Okay, so it already updated itself. I'm going to update this information. And now I'm going to see if there's a context menu. There is not. So they don't even... Oh wait, yes it does. That was weird. Okay. Scan with Bitdefender free. Oh, what is this bullshit? It popped up. The current file is password protected object. It shouldn't be. Okay, so this is what I was talking about earlier in the video. So inside one of the exe files is a password protected rare archive. I can see that it says that. That's actually kind of cool. ESET also tells you things like this if you click on like the detailed view while scanning. But essentially what this means is it can't detect this file as a virus with just a scan because it can't open a password protected archive inside of it. So the only way any of these antiviruses can potentially protect you from something like that would be to actually run the program, the exe, and let the real-time protection detect it in memory at the time that it's being opened, because at that point the installer will be opening that out with whatever the password is and putting it into memory. So I'm just going to tell it to skip all for the passworded stuff because we have no control over that. And it looks like it scanned initially really fast, but it still says the scan is in progress. If I look at the properties, we still have 500 files. I should have checked that just to be sure ahead of time. So the scan results showed this, but it says unresolved. It says on-demand scanned 6,006 items and detected 438 threats. How about resolving them? It didn't actually resolve them. Why is it not giving me an option to actually get rid of them? Quarantine, delete, whatever. Like, I mean, it shows them to me, but that's not going to be very useful for us. So this isn't going to do me a whole lot of good if it's not going to do it manually, or automatically rather. So what I think I'll do is I'm going to uninstall this. I'm going to install a trial of the paid version and see how that differs instead, because I don't want to just put in or just trust that this is the number of actual files. You can see 6,006 items were scanned, and it detected that number of threats. So let's go ahead and uninstall this, reload the snapshot, and we are going to go to the paid version. Total Security, Family Pack, Internet, Antivirus Plus. This is the one I want. I don't need to test like the internet stuff. Enter your email below IE. So if you can't tell, I'm not a big fan of having to give my email out, or any email. Testing this one versus the others is proving to be a bit of a pain in my butt. It looks like the download for it is actually bigger than the free version. I read and I don't agree. Send product. Yeah, do whatever you want. I don't care right now. Successfully installed. Start using Bitdefender. And there's the account thing again. And now we have an activation screen. I don't have a subscription. I just want to try the product for free. Finish. Now it looks like it's doing various configurations. Be aware, skip the damn tour. I don't need this. So this one doesn't do an initial scan the way the free version did. I'm gonna see, where is the update? Okay, there's update now. You guys can't see it. I apologize. By right-clicking the tray icon. So I updated the versioning. I didn't really take the effort of doing that with the others other than Viper. These were just the versions I happened to download. I'm kind of surprised that the estimated time to update it after a fresh install is 5 minutes. The installation seemed to go pretty fast, so maybe whatever version I downloaded and installed was that particular version, and it didn't auto-update itself to the most recent during installation. Here's something I wasn't expecting. The update actually requires a device restart. So I'm going to take a guess and say it didn't just update the virus definitions, but it probably updated the program itself and requires an entire restart. Bitdefender should be fully updated at this point. Let us go ahead and do a context scan. And hopefully it provides more options to actually delete or quarantine or move any files that are detected. So I see the same or a similar dialog box as the free version did. Skip all password protected items without scanning them. I don't know the passwords and we're not going to be running them, so haha, now we're talking. So the threats have been found and we have an actual action we can take. This was not available in the free, but for this one it is, so hit continue. So there is 6 issues unresolved, and I don't understand why. 2, 3, 4, so there's 5 files, 2 in this one, no action was taken. Interesting. So maybe these are not malware per se, but what they call PUPs, or potentially unwanted programs. And we can see adware, 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 adware. So it must have a secondary feature for asking what you want to do with, oh, why did it do, what? I can't take an action to delete, take proper action. That's a little weird. So 2 of these do have a delete option, but 3 of them do not. I don't know what that's all about. So my only choice is to tell it to take proper action, I suppose. Oh, nope. Now I have an option to delete. Interesting. Huh. Or it can't delete them for some reason. Take proper actions? Disinfection failed. I was thinking that maybe the detection is in a file that has already been either deleted or quarantined or something like that. Perhaps that's why it can't. Like, we're not telling it to disinfect anyways, we were telling it to delete. That is weird. I'm going to try to take proper action one more time. If it doesn't work, I, I don't know what the deal there is, but whatever. Wait, threats were. I still have this window open. Wait a minute. Oh, we're down to 66 files. This must be a leftover window. Maybe you want to exit? Yes. So in the end, we were left with 64 items. At least I'm led to believe it did what it was going to do. Let's go ahead and update this to 64. We'll sort this by column C so that the percentages will be going from highest to lowest. These are the results. So as we can see, malware bytes was at 92.2% and ESET at 91.2%, AVG at 90.2%. Actually, because of what I did with Bitdefender, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and add 2 entries. I'm going to give Kaspersky's premium trial a shot and see how that compares to what the free one did. Just because these 2 are at the bottom, it seems like it might be a worthy test to add in those 2 entries. I now have the trial of Kaspersky installed. Let's do a database update. The update required a restart, so I did that, and we are now back in business. I'm going to check properties here, just make sure it says 500. It does. Scan for viruses. I'll see you guys when this is done. Oh, it took a long time for that scan to finish. It also did a root scan after it did its initial thing. It's showing 33 objects are not even processed. And if I look at my sample size, I have 104 files still remaining. I don't understand why it didn't do anything about it. Resolve all? Requires my decision. Well, why didn't you give me a pop-up? There's no option to delete them. I'm just going to hit resolve all, I guess. Okay, here we go. I'm going to apply all. This is what this screen looks like. Detected not a virus, so it's probably a potentially unwanted program instead, which required some user interaction to handle. Alright, so that took a little while, but it got rid of those. So our final sample size is 72. And how does that compare? Interesting. It actually does compare. There's a higher detection rate in the scan afterwards with the trial version as opposed to just the free version. Well, okay then. They don't list a trial for their normal antivirus. I'm just going to work with what we got instead. Forget the Avira. Sort it by column C. So this is the end results of my test. We have 92.2% cleaned by malware bytes, followed by ESET Node 32 antivirus. And what's interesting is that AVG and AVAS both performed pretty well on their scan as well. The Curate took forever, but it's right about up there percentage-wise. Bitdefender did okay. The Viper, I probably should have just skipped that one over. I don't know. It doesn't seem like a very popular option. The MCSoft also kind of didn't do quite so well. So I will say this. I am biased. I use ESET myself for my desktops. And I have Malwarebytes, but not the premium. I only use the free scan. And when you combine the two, you should be getting some pretty good coverage. It's ultimately still only one variable of many. This test is hardly conclusive. The testing I did here is strictly scanning a folder of not installed malware, just infected files that ranged from everything Trojans, keyloggers, adware, potentially unwanted programs, and different antiviruses will handle that differently. And for any one of these, there may have been a number of things to configure to make it a more in-depth scan, etc. That was outside my scope. Mine was just mainly download a big sample size and just go with the defaults and just try and scan it. If I have to install an antivirus or someone that doesn't want to pay for it, then unfortunately ESET is not going to be a good solution. Free-wise, these two, AVG and Avast, did surprisingly good against my samples. That only means they did a good job scanning and detecting against my exact malware samples that I had picked. You can't go wrong with putting Malwarebytes on there, running a scan to clean, and you'll likely nail much of it, if not most of it. How good any of these are at removing already active threats, I don't know. That's not what we tested. That's another little ball game of mess, and there's no easy way for me to set up a scenario where I would be able to test that. And it's so case by case that it would be nearly impossible to have a way of properly testing and measuring the results. But hey, for those of you that are using Malwarebytes, you're pretty well covered. Toss in an antivirus like one of these guys, and they would complement each other pretty well. Although Malwarebytes, if you're using the premium, has real-time protection as well. So I could see people wanting to use Malwarebytes exclusively, and if I was to use my test results as any kind of basis, then you've got some good coverage. I don't know why Kaspersky is all the way down here. The free in particular left 90 samples, and the trial did do better. So it has something else it's doing on there. And I don't know how many of those were maybe just disinfected and left alone otherwise instead of being deleted. So what to make out of all this? Well, realistically, not a whole lot. There's a lot more to malware protection than the test I just performed. This is a good start to get an idea of what kind of detection rates these particular products did against my particular samples. And I'm assuming they're recent samples since that database is always getting new samples. We took the first 500. There's a lot more to it, like how quickly these antiviruses are, or anti-malware are, at updating their definition, staying on top, how good their heuristic algorithms are at detecting stuff that's not in the definitions, but is behaving the same way as a piece of malware is. So in the end, this was just a little test. This is not an end-all be-all under any definition. Take out of it what you want, or nothing.